Thank you very much for joining us today on the community show that is hosted by Center for Constitutional Governance together with Civic Space TV. Today's show is focused on the climate disasters that have begun occurring in this country. Last week, we all experienced and saw the sad tragedies of people who were swept away by floods. By close of last week, about 29 people had been confirmed dead from the floods that swept through, that flowed through Mbale, leaving very many people homeless. Around 500 homes were sort of destroyed, and around 500 people had were displaced by the floods. Upon that happening, the Prime Minister rushed to the scene to confront the victims, but also to assess the situation. There have been a number of responses. Red Cross came in handy to offer rescue services and some sort of rehabilitation and first aid and first response. On Wednesday of last week, that was on the 3rd, Parliament also ordered Cabinet to come up with a comprehensive response plan for the disasters such as those of Mbale. To help me further substantiate on this issue of climate disasters in this country, I'm joined by a panel of people who not only live in those areas that are affected, but also have quite some knowledge when it comes to environment and climate and how they can be better managed and protected. I'll ask each one to introduce themselves. We shall begin with them. Busiku Swaibu, then we shall have Goodluck, Musinguzi, and Gidudu Alex in that order. Thank you.
I'm a journalist working with 93.1 IFM radio in Mbale, and here to join today's discussion about Uganda's readiness on disasters within the country.
I'm called Goodluck Musinguzi. I work with the Kigezi News and a number of other websites. I come from Kigezi, where so based on to disasters. I'm happy to join the panel as we discuss this.
Now, I want to begin with you, Swaibu. You are in Mbale, where the most perhaps recent tragedy or catastrophe happened. Please paint for us a picture of what the situation is like in Mbale as we speak.
So I was trying to give up that within on Sunday morning we had to experience floods happening within the district together with the city, then and some parts of Slonko, and even also are being swept away by the floods. And the main area of Mbale city, we have Musiime. So within that, then we had also some people were moving within the night, traveling from various destinations. We also swept off, where we had to see a number of cars being affected within this. Then we had also see a number of other motorcyclists who were moving within that night of the hour of 4 a.m. in the morning. Then we had to see that this was registered that right now Mbale, the city people who lost their lives, Slonko, 3 lost their lives, and even also getting to Kapchora in Sabay sub-region, 3 lost their lives. Then because people affected in this, including the houses and the plantations and animals, we had to find that around over 900 homes were affected in this. So we had to see losing life like that. Then within that, we had to see our roads were affected in this, because that within that movement, for instance, we have hotel. It's one of the affected areas. The fact that that stream which comes from the other side of Samaga, it crosses between Mbale Resort. So Mbale Resort was also affected. Then come to that the former premises where we had to see Livingstone University was also affected because the place flooded. Then come to the industrial park just here on Kampala Road connecting to Uganda. The industrial park was also flooded. Then moved to the households within Busamaga. Always swept away because the fact that people were sleeping. So these floods found people sleeping, and there is where to see people, the houses demolished. Then also getting to see cars swept on. The team, personally, I received a call from one of the residents from those ends of Busamaga at was around the morning there, around 5 a.m. in the morning. I received a call from one of my sister who stays from those ends. She gave me a call trying to notify me about it. Then I thought that I was I gave a call to the regional. I gave a call notifying about the situation. Then I gave a call to the manager of Red Cross in Mbale, that's Brother Twaha Ayub. The police, police with the fire brigade team, they had to get up at that ravine. They moved to those ends of Samaga and Kampala Road, where the main affected areas. Then Red Cross, after giving a call to the manager, Red Cross in Mbale, he had also to set his emergency team. They moved to the field, and we had to see some people being saved, and also seeing that police, they had to make they had to put checkpoints within Mbale city, just around the Ahmadiyya Muslim that hospital. Then those ends of Nakaloke, because remember we have 2 rivers which flooded. The first river was Nabuyonga, the main one which affected. That was Nabuyonga here as you connecting to Soloti. Then we have so that's Northern East Division. So I found that roadblocks were put in Nakaloke. Then within Mbale city, trying to limit movement. Commander, that was Madame Ruth Ngabire, the one who commands traffic within Mbale city.
Okay,
and that,
thank you.
Sitting at CP Minister on Sunday, she could.
Thank you, Swaibu. You're going to add on. I just encourage that you get a more stable network. You are breaking, so we're having issues hearing you coherently. But you're going to continue with where you have stopped. You are a journalist who has reported a number of issues like this. Do you mind sharing some information on some of these disasters and your experience, if any, and in any case, is Kigezi immune to this?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Busiku. I think Busiku Swaibu, for that. He's trying to give us an insight which I've not had since this event. Of course, it took me. I think I first got the first message actually from Civic Space TV. One of the members notified me around 11 a.m., meaning that as media, maybe because the situation was so volatile, unpredictable, you could see that also the media in terms of reporting, they were caught unawares, because sometimes when such a problems happen, even as you are managing the internal mechanisms to make sure that they save people, it is also paramount that the outside world gets to know what is happening. Because for me, immediately I got to know, I posted on my social media. I also work with some other journalists. Actually, I called journalists from Karamoja who tried to call some journalists in Mbale. Some of them, their phones were off. And for me, that sort of scared me. I was like, are our people safe if we don't have journalists on the ground? So we managed to get one lady whose family was a little bit on a hill. It was not affected, but when she went down, I remember her in the voice that was recorded. She at one point said, "Oh my God, the bridge is going," and of course there are some people who were using the bridge. So when you say such a things, as Honorable Esther Anyakuni, the State Minister for Disaster Preparedness, said, it was a surprise. And I can tell you, disasters will never be something that everybody can say, I can really hold on to, but it is something that comes and tests your systems. Either it breaks the systems, and I remember covering a flood in Kigezi. I remember people woke up, graves were being swept away. It was really, the swamps had cut off some roads. So it's that time that human beings are put to a test where it is so difficult to know what it is. But why I liked what Swaibu said is that as a journalist, he got concerned. He responded to the call from the sister, called Red Cross and police. And I would also wish really to write a story or commend police for stopping, for putting those roadblocks to stop other people, because sometimes our people are very stubborn. They will say nothing will happen. I have a nice car. I have a strong car. I'll go through it. So, but maybe we could be talking about more death. So, for me, in terms of preparedness as a country, is that all of us, the way we react to disasters, even look at COVID-19. COVID-19 came and shut us down. I can tell you today, when you talk to people, they tell you that one ended. That one ended. I don't know on the part of government. The other day, I saw Minister of Health asking for money, and the unfortunate comments on social media were that they want to steal the money. So, meaning sometimes also Ugandans must understand that we must give enough money and equip these places. Bugisu area I think seems to be Bugisu and the Renzoli seem to be the red points where you can say we need to see much more being done, empowering the districts to be able to make sure that they have enough equipment, but also how they respond is also something else. But also teaching us as media, as Swaibu was talking, I could see that we also need some training in terms of reporting about disasters. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those further insights. Good luck, and also narrating to us your experience. With this, Alex, are you able to say something? And if you would tell us about your experience in this, time you've been in affected areas, it would be really good to share with us your experience with these disasters that are actually very fresh, just last week.
We have a school in Mbale but most of my work I do from there. What happened is that when it rained and we had the people coming, I had to call those people on the ground and they told me what is happening. Then I also had to go and what I saw, it was alarming. Because I have my brother also who stays in Busama there. He was affected. He's almost living in my uncle. I said, as much as these floods are affecting and killing our people, but the government, to some extent, have not done much because you realize that people putting the investments on the wetlands. The government is there, it is watching. You get these rich people, they can buy a wetland, they carry maram, they put it there, they construct their house without considering that at one time the nature will dictate on something afterwards. So according to me, I may say that much as the government is trying to put some measures, but it has not done the best. Because sometimes, like in my area, Seronko, we also got some mudslides some time back, but up to now, there's no clear plan that the government has put in place. Say Gidudu, people have tried Gidudu. Government has not done much so that at least they put a permanent solution for in case the rain comes. So they wait until when they hear people crying, when it has come, people are dying. That is when you hear that the Ministry of Preparedness is coming to sustain the damages. Then after some time, if there's no rain, they forget about it. So I think there's nothing much which is supposed to be done. Otherwise, we are not safe. Talk about the industrial park in Mbale. There's one member who mentioned about it. That land had stayed there for quite a long period of time, majorly because of the floods. That land was majorly meant to maybe for planting rice, but the government decided to put there the industrial park, and right now what is on ground is not good, and I'm very sure they need to have a good plan for that industrial park, because I don't think nature will stop to do its work. The rain will never stop, and the project also need it. So the government has to look for a better way of putting that park right, because there's no way you can force the park to be in a wetland. So as per now, okay, I beg to stop there. I may add on if I'm given another opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. To the next speakers, it's important that you tell us what you do. Alex, you hadn't done that. Tell us what you do so that it forms the basis on which Yes, what do you do, Alex? What is your
Yes. I'm a teacher by profession.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I'm glad that we have been joined by Nakayenze. Nakayenze is an environmental officer with Mbale City, many questions will certainly go to her as we continue with this discussion. I want to give some statistics or some for context before we proceed with Anna. Anna will introduce herself. Thereafter, we shall have Busiku continue with the facts he was relaying to us. Now, the World Bank has done an assessment. They called it Climate Change Knowledge Portal. And this is basically for development practitioners and key policy makers. Oh, correction, Anna doesn't work with Mbale City, but she works with an organization called, okay, she is the environmental officer, okay, of Mbale. She will substantiate more on her role and position when her time comes, which is the next. So, yes, Mbale local government. So that is correct. World Bank stated that from 1900 to, well, that was about basically around the same time of the founding of Uganda, to 2018, Uganda has encountered then, and this was a report done about 4 years ago, and Uganda had encountered 20 floods by then, 40 epidemics, 9 droughts, 9 drought and 5 landslide events. The accumulated damages caused by those natural disasters then amounted to over 200,000 deaths and at least $80 million in economic loss. Of course, that has increased. This did not take into account, of course, the epidemic or the pandemic of COVID, among other epidemics. Further, the natural disasters have increased. We have seen a lot of floods and drought in floods mainly in the eastern part of the country and western part, basically in Kasese, where rivers are usually flooding. We've also had earthquakes that have devastated the country. In Kasese, we know it has become a usual occurrence to have rivers burst. And for context to all our viewers, this is caused by mainly climate change. The rains are now irregular, so we have more erratic rains. It can shine for so long, and then when the pour comes, it is a lot of rain, which overwhelms the rivers, and the river banks usually burst. That is what causes the flooding. It is what caused the flooding in Mbale. It rained a lot, and the water could not be contained within those rivers. So the water there was an overflow of water, and that overflow is that caused all those heavy floods that were moving with a lot of force, swept away houses, swept away cars, and the carnage is still being felt. Now, I want to invite Anna to give us an assessment of the situation now, where she is, but also tell us the response that has been, the response that has come, mainly from government, and how are the victims being treated, how are the victims being handled? We know many homes have been swept away. What is the response plan? Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Nakayenze Anna, and I'm the Senior Environment Officer for Mbale District Local Government. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for organizing this meeting where we can share views and be able to inform the public on what is happening. Specifically, In terms of disaster preparedness and response, I think we all know that as a country, the Office of the Prime Minister takes the lead, and it does not work alone. It works with partners using the technical capacities that they have, and also having emergency response activities in case the country is faced with the disasters like the one that we had recently in Mbale. I want to say that, of course, a lot has been said about the disasters, and the disaster that took place took us unawares as Mbale, both the city and the district. And most people are focusing on the city, probably because of the high population. I'm not certain, but while we are focusing on the city, we need to be cognizant of the fact that the issues, the problem arose from the district. Because when we look at the disaster map, the water that flooded in the city came from the ranges of the Elgon, from the Wanale, Busano section largely. And unfortunately for this time round, it came along with the mudslides, and therefore had a major impact in terms of the banks breaking, and therefore there was flooding, and the impact has really been big. Further information available indicates that the projections for this region where Mbale is, in terms of the climate, indicates that the warmer seasons, the hotter seasons, are going to become hotter, and the wetter seasons are going to become more wet. And specifically for this season we are dealing with, the projections indicate that we are likely to receive above normal rains for this season, implying that we must be more alert, we must be more sensitive to the weather manifestations. Now, in terms of disasters, we need to appreciate that there are disasters that are natural and there are disasters that are man-made. Where we are, this is likely to be a natural disaster because of the climate change issues. Well, I don't even know if I should categorize it as natural, but I think we have made a big contribution as man to climate change, and a time comes when we must face the consequences of our actions. I would feel convicted that what we are experiencing is more man-made than natural. Reason being that on the Kenyan side, where the laws are in effect, the Elgon has been conserved. There is sustainable utilization of the Elgon. They are not faced with the challenges we are faced with on the Ugandan side of the same mountain. And I am forced to believe that we are faced with these challenges because of our own activities that do not respect the role the natural resources play in protecting and preserving us as people, our livelihoods, our economies and properties. The disaster that occurred, of course, found us a little bit unawares, but as the district, the Disaster Management Committee is up, and I'm happy to report that the Office of the Prime Minister also responded quickly. And as we speak, we received relief items from the Office of the Prime Minister. We received food, we received beans and some tarpaulins as an emergency response. And a number of sub-counties affected with the communities have received the food items. I'm also privileged to report that Red Cross has also been able to get for us some non-items. We are yet to know the amount of how much, but they are working in the field to see that these items are also distributed. The disaster has had a major impact on the people. From Mbale district, we've lost 4 people, 1 from Bubyangu, 1 from Busoba, 2 from Bungoko. These died. We have 10 people that are in hospitals that were injured. And of course, this is not good at all for our communities. Besides the people, the lives directly, the disaster has affected the properties of peoples. We have houses destroyed. So far, we are talking of around 155 houses destroyed. We have crops, animals destroyed. In terms of acreage, we have close to 1,300 acres of crops destroyed, some of them ready to harvest, implying that the hunger situation in the district is just at our doorsteps. Our water sources have also been affected. 5 boreholes were affected. Sorry, 5 water springs in Bungoko have been affected, and 2 boreholes have also been affected. But we also have the piping system that supplies water to the Mbale city affected, because we had the Manafa water supply pipes broken at Nambale River, and also the Nabuyonga supply was affected. So for some time, we didn't have water in the city. In terms of education in the district, we have 7 schools affected. There is a big crack in Ibubyangu that has cracked some classrooms, and some pit latrines have sunk in Bushkori, actually in 2 schools in Bungoko. I forget the second, but I can always get the details. We also have the roads which have been destroyed, washing away of the culverts, damaging of the bricks. The Nambale bridge on Mbale Toll Road is damaged. The Nabuyonga bridge equally is not in a good state, but much as it is in the city. But the damage has been across the sectors. We have a number of roads. The Kokonje Road, Mbale Kokonje Road, commonly the one that's the name that it's called, but the one going to Wanale was blocked by boulders and debris, and UNRWA was working on having it opened. We have some roads that have been washed off. So basically, the impact has been much, and we are still expecting more negative impacts. The numbers are growing, they're surging, because there are some houses which initially seem to be safe, but water is oozing from underneath them in Bungoko. So the numbers are likely to rise. Now, in terms of response, I want to report that I've already talked about the OPM support, but we also have a number of development partners that are coming on board to respond, to be able to address the issues of safe water access, emergency response, medical support, and provision of chaplains for those who have totally lost out on their housing facilities. Some food has already been distributed, like I earlier on alluded, and Red Cross is already distributing some non-food items, on the ground distributing non-food items to those that have totally lost out on their housing facilities. And I said that I think we are doing fairly well. So we are on board and trying to do the best that we can. But probably one thing that we need to take note of is the fact that the environment needs to be restored to be able to perform its functions. The highland areas of the mountain Elgon have loose volcanic soils. They are soft, easily washed away. But also they are very productive. And given the high population, we are really using these lands to provide for us our livelihoods. But probably these disasters are speaking to us to review the way we do our work. Can we have interventions that increase the vegetation cover in the mountain areas? Can we have interventions that try to distribute the water over time so that water is retained and in the catchment and is allowed to seep slowly, to penetrate slowly and recharge the underground aquifers while the excess flows down, unlike the current situation where we have whatever pours down is directly sent into the rivers and streams to be washed downwards. Can we have measures to restore the river banks? It becomes difficult to have restoration of the ecosystems when we are not talking the same language as government. Riverbank restoration, the law provides for certain buffer zones which have not been respected. And the community will tell you this is the only source of livelihood that I have. How do we make the balance between the need for food and the need for conservation? This is a time for us to think deeply, to think outside the box and see how we can have remedial measures that are going to help us reduce the occurrences that we have just been faced with. We also need to look at developing alternative livelihood options.
Anna, I want to cut you short. That's a second segment on what to do. You've given us a clear analysis and you've laid facts to us, which I would ask other panelists to comment on. And then we shall, that would be the last part where we shall go into the detail of what can we do. Now, to add on what you've said, Daily Monitor has reported, that was on the 3rd of August, reported, and it was quoting the Minister for Disaster Preparedness, Honorable Hilary Onek, and in his statement in his press conference to the journalists, he stated that 9 institutions of learning were either partially or fully damaged by the Mbale floods, and 3 health centers. Yes, you've given us a number of bridges. He said 14 bridges were washed away, 9 cars, 3 motorcycles were also washed away. He said, of course, on top of the statistics you've given us of acres and plants, he said 700 domestic animals were washed away. About 4,500 poultry were killed. 15 fish ponds were destroyed. Name it. And of course, that also then he quoted another number when it came to households that were swept away. He also quoted to us a number of, I think, 150. I want to ask Swaibu and Goodluck will also respond to this, you as journalists. Who has the right figures? Who has the right statistics? And do these figures, do the statistics help in the response plan? Because there is a bit of a contradiction when you hear about the acres affected and the households. Anna has given us a certain figure, and then another figure is being reported by other sources. And of course, also donor entities, etc., may have varying figures. Could this be to a gap in reporting, or could it also be, could it reflect the magnitude of the catastrophe to the extent that people haven't actually really assessed the kind of damage? So in reacting to Anna's presentation, please, you could also comment on the representation of the extent of damage. You know, who is getting the right numbers, who is getting the right statistics, and what can we do to properly assess? I'll begin with you, Swaibu.
Sister,
okay, to our viewers and mainly our international viewers, you will pardon us. These are community people within communities, and given the changes in the weather patterns, so the network is unstable. However, as and when they are back, we are able to have them. Busiku, are we able to hear you? Okay. Goodluck, please react to her presentation, but also the question I had raised.
Okay, let me speak. My phone is for the detail. In terms of the statistical reporting, I can always say in terms of disaster.
And would you like to rectify that? Would you like to rectify what the variance in figures and statistics that we are seeing? Would you like to rectify that?
Thank you so much. I think I need to make a clarification in that most of the reporting has focused on the Mbale city, which is an autonomous entity that is different from Mbale district local government. So basically the figures are provided are from Mbale district local government. Though in terms of the deaths, there are some 2 deaths that were accounted for because the bodies went through the mortuary that were from Mbale, the local government residents. Like I reported, there is a death that took place in Bubyangu and Busova. It was reported in the city because the bodies were recovered from the river and taken to the mortuary. But these were residents of Mbale district local government and reported for them. So in terms of the figures, the city has its own data sets, its own information that it has corrected, what we've been able to generate. And the district has its own, implying that if we are to merge the 2 sources of data, the impact is quite bigger than what we are reporting right now. I just wanted to make that correction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Anna, for giving providing that clarification. It really helps a lot. So there is a difference between Mbale and Mbale city and Mbale district local government. So indeed, it actually exacerbates the situation when you put the 2 together. It shows that the carnage is even much bigger. And 29 deaths have been reported in total, as we know, at least as of 3rd of August. The districts that were affected, as all the panelists have noted, include Mbale, Kapchora, Bulambuli, Manafwa, Sironko, and Namisindwa. These are prone to rainfall havoc due to their location on the foot of Elgon, like Anna explained. Many of them on the slopes of Mountain Elgon. And so when there's a lot of downpour, it weakens, of course, the soils. Wheat soils have been largely destroyed to man-made activities. So there are no rain breakers, there are no wind breakers, there are no trees, there's little vegetation. So it just sweeps the slopes, causing landslides and immense flooding. Gidudu, we would like to hear from you. Of course, reacting to what Anna has said, but as we go in the segment of what can be done, what can government do? What can all citizens do to be ready for these disasters? Anna has noted that some are natural disasters, that they're inevitable to happen, but then some are really man-made, caused, they're caused by man, they're caused by activities of man. So please react to what she said, but also provide us with an alternative in your view to make Uganda more prepared for such disasters.
Thank you so much. According to me, the government has tried to put some of the remedies on the damages that are caused by the disaster, but some of them are made by man, some of them by nature. So it is the responsibility of a government to see that it educates its people about the dangers of doing something which in the future will affect their lives. Like, for example, we have people who are cutting trees day and night, burning charcoal, forgetting that in the future it's going to affect our children, even ourselves. Now you can see some of these landslides are coming because of cutting down the trees. So the government has the responsibility to see that it educates people on how to be prepared. Secondly, the government has to be prepared in case there's a disaster like which is happening in the Bugiso land, because it's not new. It has been there for quite a long period of time, but there's nothing much the government has done. So according to me, I request that it has to do a permanent solution in case there's any disaster which may come ahead, and of which we are not sure that in 5 years to come, we may not have the same disaster, because it is just of recent that we started experiencing these disasters because of man-made activities. The issue of wetlands, since we have NEMA, they are responsible for advising the government on what to do. It has to do its work, not just sitting in offices and drawing allowances without considering what is on the ground. NEMA should do its work. They should intensify education to the people to know that at least these are the dangers in case we do away with these wetlands. The government must also spare some money as it makes their budget. It has to spare some money for such disasters, because when we lose life, we gain nothing. It is life, then some other things can can work. They should be ready in case there's a disaster, because there's no way we can avoid, but at least we can try to reduce in case a disaster comes. So according to me, like in my home area, Sironko, we have some disasters, but there are not so much like what is happening in town areas where people are fighting to buy, even if it's a wetland they're trying to buy because they're targeting something. So it's not too much. People have tried to observe, to protect the forests, much as some few have started to cut trees, but still some people, like in our area, they are giving some planted, those ones who have land. So much as we know that there's some of these disasters also come because people don't have land, the population has grown, so we are forced to stay in areas that are not supposed to be occupied by human beings, but because of the population. So according to me, though human beings are complicated, but they should also sensitize people on how we are getting the children. You get somebody who has no land, but has like 10 children. So in the future, if the government does not sensitize people about family planning, how to have a manageable number, I think such things will continue to happen. So the government should do its work to see that it sensitizes people to have at least a manageable number of children, so that at least we try to avoid some of the repercussions of the disasters which may come ahead. So I think I request to stop there to give some other members to add on their contributions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that, for those insights. Busiku, please, what do you think should be done to make this country better prepared for climate disasters or to avert such disasters? All right, as we come to the close of this meeting, I'd like, yes, Anna, please, you give us a diagnosis. You had begun on it earlier. You give us a diagnosis of, no, not a diagnosis now, a remedy actually, on what we can do as a country. Of course, you could share what you're doing as a community, much of which I know you said, so you could just add on because I cut you short, but also what we can do as a country, what has been done elsewhere to prepare as a country for these disasters, most importantly to avert them, because it's pertinent that the population is protected from these disasters, because they have proved to be quite perilous to us as a country.
Thank you very much. I want to intimate that I think as a country, a lot has been done and a lot is expected of us. I'm aware that the research has been done on the Mount Elgon, and somehow we need to see how the findings of the research translate into action on ground. As we speak, there is a crack that runs across the ridge, the Mount Elgon ridge on the Ugandan side. And I'm convinced that we need to respect the guidance that these research findings give us. Government has put in some efforts to relocate people from these areas, but the people are adamant, implying that there is a need of sensitization, a need of community engagements, a need for bringing people to appreciate the risk that they are faced with. Besides these sensitizations and engagements and the alternative places of abode, like the relocation, we also need to focus a bit much more on improving our academic. Let me talk about the education and learning systems and opportunities. We are lagging behind. And the people who do not go far in education means that we remain within the community and we do not tap into opportunities education opens outside our places of birth. If we had very many people from this region attaining higher levels of education and therefore getting jobs that do not hold them within the local settings, probably the population would be dispersed. The population of the Bamasab and the residents of on the mountain would be dispersed in other parts of the country, and we could reduce the pressure that we exert on the land. But also we need to look at the skills development so that we don't look at agriculture as the only source of livelihood. We need to consider other opportunities that can provide incomes for our people. I've had an opportunity to appreciate the fact that nature provides business opportunities which we have not tapped into. For example, the tamarins are used to make jam. We don't have such an opportunity that we have tapped into in this region. Yet we have many tamarins in this region. We have, basically this is what is called nature-based enterprises. We have some organizations that are making good money out of crafts, nature crafts, which we've not tapped into. There is a big potential for ecotourism, which we have not tapped into because the road network is poorly developed, but also we have not sat down to develop the different tourism products that probably can provide alternative incomes for the communities. We also need to seriously think about contingent planning at our levels and maintain relationship with development partners and actors. Because when we have the plans, then we can know where to tap into in terms of response in the shortest time possible. The country has earmarked certain areas and called them fragile. The hill and mountainous areas, the wetlands, riverbanks and lake shores, the rangelands. These fragile ecosystems really need to be handled as fragile ecosystems. We need to look at a way, government needs to explore options of providing alternative livelihoods for people that are solely dependent on these resources so that they can leave these resources to recover, to regenerate, and they play their functions. Whereas we are looking at the heavy rains and the floods, there are other disasters that are imminent in this country, the droughts. Can we explore, in addition to revegetating the landscapes, developing irrigation systems, small scale micro irrigation systems, so that water is got from those streams, the rivers, and it is used for agriculture away from the streams and the rivers. This will protect the buffer zones along the rivers and the streams, but also open opportunities for livelihood outside the fragile ecosystems. We also need to strengthen the institutional response measures. where all of us as actors speak the same language. As we speak, whereas the law provides for just small sections of wetlands to be used for agriculture, the agriculturists consider the wetlands as rice plantation areas. We need to have a harmonization of the approaches so that we all speak the same language. We need to explore the different opportunities that our nature provides in a holistic, integrated, inclusive approach. We have areas of the national park that have been degraded, and we need to talk of how we can have them restored. We need to have a think tank talking about these issues, especially for the Erigon, because we are most hit. And these issues must inform policy and implement. But kindly, that's what I've been able to submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, for giving us that insight, and it has been really quite helpful. I believe the policymakers who are listening in or who are watching this show will certainly get on board and put this into practice, put this into perspective. And you've told us something quite very important, that in everything that is being done to better prepare or to better avert these disasters, every action should be, or decision should be holistic, integrated, and inclusive. And indeed, there is no better way to plan for people than to involve them in a very, using those 3 principles. Thank you very much, Anna. Swaibu, if you are able to say something, please say something, and then we close this show. Your parting shots, Busiku?
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Rex. I've been a little bit disturbed by the network, but my submission could be mainly the causes as the local government officer has put it down. People have encroached on the river banks. Right? For instance, I can give an example of Nabuyonga River. A number of people have gone to planting tomatoes, cabbages around the places, maize. At the end of the day, we are seeing that whenever the river floods, there's nothing which can prevent it from getting into people's houses. So then another thing, we find that some people have been encroached on the wetlands. For instance, the place of Kampala Road in Namakwekwe. We know whether that place is a swampy area, but right now when you reach there, you find that it has been full of houses. But this is coming because it's relaxed. Try to sensitize. But when someone comes with money and some top people, because when try to look like in such places where swamps have been taken, it's government officials who have occupied such places. Recently, before the floods getting to happen, because I work with IU Radio just opposite that primary of IU primary. In front of IU primary, we have someone whom we even don't know, but they had just started pouring there. We are finding that places, the city of Mbale, they have gone into encroaching on the swamps, which I will call upon the government to go ahead and try to seize those people away from that. Then the solutions, in brief, one, I will call for the government to do enough sensitization to the public as far as conserving the environment and swamps in particular. Why should we conserve them? What could be the beneficial part of it? Then away from that, we still also need the government has also to remove the iron hand. Let them not just end on talking and putting things in record. Let them come on ground, they act. Because in Mbale, people started encroaching on Mbale swamps, the time we had to see Mbale transforming from municipal to a city status. So a number of people had to encroach on swamps, putting their petrol stations, putting their industries, like that. But the government has common people around. Like for instance, I can also give an example of the area of North London. North London is well known of having the elites community and some of the government officials around. But that was a swampy area. I grew up within Mbale being a swamp and a bushy area. But right now it has turned into a corporate place for where we are seeing people getting there. So government should get up.
Thank you very much, Swaibu, for that. Goodluck, please give your parting shots and how you think we can avert these disasters, and also how ready Uganda can be in case these disasters are inevitable.
Thank you very much. For me, I think I have a report that shows last year 1 million people were affected by the disasters, and they are spread across the whole country. The latest early warning I have read about shows that things might not be very good. And definitely with the Mbale issues, you could see on the first day of the rains, we got this damage. By yesterday, I was following rain in Soroti, I was following rain in Karamoja. The other day, it rained for over 10 hours in Kabale. So definitely, we don't know what's happening in the Renzori region. So for me, I think the cabinet has approved 185 billion shillings. I wish the Ministry of Finance could be able to avail that money quickly so that we have regional equipment. But I also find that Ministry of Health needs to be put into this, and also UPDF to find a way of. There's a way I'm not satisfied as a person. I think we can do better if we decided. At least let's start with one region. If it is Mbale, let Mbale have enough equipment, personnel, so that at least we know we have one region fine. Then we can go to other places. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Goodluck for that. Without any further ado, I'd like to end the session. Thank you, all of you. We understand it hasn't been easy with the network and everything, but thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our panelists for devoting all this time to the show. And I wish you a blessed week. May God protect Uganda. Thank you. Nice time.